Hello, faithful listeners. My name's Clay Thompson, and I'll be your guide once again in the fiction room. Today's prompt is brought to us from username Crafty Rooster. Your spouse goes into the bathroom only to come running out 15 seconds later. Clutching you close, they tell you they fell into another dimension, and what felt like seconds to you was 1,000 years to them. They now want you to follow them back because they have built a life for you there. As always, I hope you enjoy hearing these stories as much as I enjoy reading them, but without further ado, let's begin with our first story, written by Ghostwrite the Whip. Malcolm squeezed my hand. We were standing in front of the bathtub, feeling a bit foolish. Well, I was at least. I knew this was all a joke, but for some reason my heart was hammering like a drum. "Close your eyes, babe," he said. "Why?" I asked. "I don't want to miss anything. This whole dimension jumping is not exactly something one does every day, after all." I could see a spider crawling its way across the bottom of the tub, a dark speck in a sea of cream, zigzagging its way toward the drain. "Do you trust me?" I looked at my husband. Would I be standing in a bathroom like this if I didn't? "You're humoring me, I get it, but I'm not lying." One lock of my hair fell out of my tight bun of hair and hung loosely in front of my face. Malcolm reached out and brushed it out of the way so that he could stare me right in the face. "Hey, I love you. Now close your eyes." I took a deep breath. "Okay." He grabbed my hand again, and I squeezed it until the knuckles turned white. I felt him slip a small piece of paper into my palm. I looked up at him quizzically, but he was already facing forward at the wall. "On the count of 3, then we'll do it." "Do what?" He ignored me. 1, 2, 3. I shut my eyes and felt a sharp jerk on my hand, and then my navel, and then suddenly the floor was gone, and I was flying. I could feel wind and particles whipping by my face. I wanted to scream, but was afraid if I opened my mouth, then something might fly in. There was a second sharp pull at my arm, wrenching me sharply in a new angle, and I was thrust away from my husband. I lost all reservations and opened my mouth to scream his name, but nothing came out, the sound of my voice consumed by the void of another dimension. Then I was alone. My body connected with something hard, and I lost consciousness. Seagulls. I could hear them calling to each other. It had been ages since Malcolm and I had taken a proper vacation to the ocean. It was good to finally be back. Except, why was I at the ocean again? "You all right, miss?" I opened my eyes and saw only blurry shapes. The world was fuzzy, as if I needed a pair of glasses. But I could make out 3 distinct colors: the dark navy water of the ocean, the bright cerulean of the sky, and the beige expanse of sand stretching for miles in 2 directions before me. The sun was hot on my skin, and sand was sticking in bunches to my elbows. I waited patiently for my mind to unscramble and my bearings to return to me. It came in pieces. Followed Malcolm into bathroom, different dimension, new life, flying, got separated, hit a thing, here now. "Hello, miss? You a mute or something?" I looked up. A girl no older than 12 or 13 was looking down at me. She had tanned skin and short sandy hair fashioned in a pixie cut. She was offering a hand to me, and it was at that moment that I realized that I was sprawled out on my back. "I'm okay. Oh, I think. Thanks." I accepted her hand and let her pull me to my feet. My entire body ached, as if I had done a workout at a gym for the first time in months. The girl was strong for her size, and did all the work to get me standing again. I began to dust sand out of my plaid pajama bottoms. I noticed the girl was staring at me with a funny look. "What?" I asked, still groggy. "That's a funny thing you're wearing. You're from the outside, yeah? If the outside is a different dimension, then yeah, I thought. Something like that. I looked around. Out past a horizon of dunes, I could see a row of thatched red roofs, a patchwork plain of mismatched and uneven tiles. It appeared to be some type of shanty fishing town. There were fishing lines dotting the shoreline, propped up in the sand, all facing the sea. You must have come for the funeral then. Lots of outsiders will be sailing in the next few days. Guess you must have shipwrecked, huh? My head was still pounding, and I only stood half of what the girl was saying. Funeral? No. I'm looking for a man. Name is Malcolm Reynolds. Apparently he's lived here for about 1,000 years. You heard of him? The girl shook her head and kicked at the sand. Don't know anyone by that name. It's a big world, miss. She took a step closer and peered a bit closer into my ears. We should get you to a doctor. We only got herbalists in the village, so if you want a real one, you have to head into the city. I shook my head. I can do that later, after I find my husband. She shrugged. Suit yourself. You said he's lived here 1,000 years, yeah? Well, anyone that lives that long would have to have a record in the city library. She began to walk over to the fishing lines by the sea to check them. I'm heading up that way for the funeral. You can join me if you like. It wasn't like I had any better ideas. I looked in both directions as far as I could, craning my neck as I did so. No sign of Malcolm anywhere. Okay, I said. I held out my hand again. I'm Jill, by the way. She grabbed on with bony fingers. Pleasure to meet you, Miss Jill the Outsider. I'm Kassa. She pointed back toward the village. Let's head back to my cottage. We can stop and get provisions before we head into the capital. If we leave now, we can get in before the lines at the city gates get too long. I nodded. Must be quite a funeral. You could say that, Kassa grinned. It's a funeral for the Queen, after all. The Queen? Guess even alternate dimensions are ruled by royalty, I thought. She was a good queen, then? Kassa bowed her head. Yeah, she'll be missed. At least by most of us. Some of us wonder about her death, whether it was really natural or not. The king and the queen were in an arranged marriage, you see. Didn't exactly fancy each other. Some say he had it in for her, loved another. As Kassa prattled on about the royal family, I realized there was something pressed against my left palm, now slick with sweat. I opened my hand to reveal a note. The same note that Malcolm had thrust into my hand back in the bathroom. It was tiny and rolled up neatly, like a scroll. With fingers that were slightly trembling, I unrolled the tiny piece of parchment and read the words in my husband's handwriting. If you ever need to find me, just ask for the king. Wink. So very nicely done. The world that is crafted has some care put in there, and it reminds me of the Narnia books with how well the lore was crafted, and this could very well work out as, again, another novel story, and I would love to see more of this. I think there's a part 2 to this story, so definitely go on the artist's page and check out their stuff. And now, dear listeners, we must unfortunately bid you farewell once again. Thank you all so much for tuning into The Fiction Room. If you enjoyed today's stories, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. It would very much help us. And wherever you are in the world, be safe, be well, and we'll see all of you next time.